Hey students, this YouTube video is going to be talking to you today about Blogger gadgets. Now sometimes we might call them widgets or we might call them, embedded apps, but Blogger likes to call them gadgets, so that's what I'm going to refer to them today as. You'll notice if you take a look at the 8th grade Design Tech blog, there's some gadgets already embedded in here, like a search gadget and a follow by email, and even a couple of gadgets that will link either to labeled words within our blog posts, to outside resources, or to some of the other blogs I own, or even to some of your blogs. In fact, this particular gadget is a blog roll of my favorite blogs to read, and the ones that show up are the ones that have been updated most recently. You might even want to add a gadget for who's visiting. What's interesting is many of these gadgets that I have already embedded here on the blog are gadgets that, Blogger provides for you. They're suggested gadgets. But this gadget right here, this Who's Visiting, is a gadget I'm already pulling from a completely different website. I'm doing that by actually creating an HTML gadget and taking the HTML code provided by clustermap's website and pasting it in. I'll give you a sense and idea of how to do that in just a little bit. Just remember that you're going to need to determine for yourself what are the appropriate gadgets for your blog. What help best fits in with your theme, which ones are going to make your website or your blog a little bit more user-friendly and user-interactive. But at the same time, there's some gadgets we want to avoid, ones that might not be appropriate, whether in the content they're showing or gadgets that actually have advertisements built into them. We don't want to give anybody access to control or show information on our blog that we wouldn't want associated with ourselves. So how and where do we go to add gadgets and edit our gadgets? Well, that's simple. If you go into your overview, into your dashboard, and you scroll down to Layout, you'll actually be able to see there's a whole bunch of different places that you can add gadgets. You can add them on the top, you can add them on the right, you can add them on the bottom. I like a really simple layout, so adding gadgets on the right-hand side is good for me. When you want to choose a gadget, you just have to press Add Gadget. A pop-up window will give you a whole bunch of suggested gadgets. Blogger has their basic gadgets, and there are 28 of those. Then they have more gadgets, where there are 800 plus of those. And then you can go through the process of adding your own if you've got a URL to a direct gadget. I would suggest for right now, let's just stick with the basics. There's some really interesting ones in here that you might want to consider for your blog, like Translate or Follow by Email. Those are recommended gadgets. They're not required, but they're recommended. You might even want to have one for your most popular posts, but I'd save that until you actually have a lot more posts. You actually have one for pages already. It's actually your menu. And if you were to scroll down, you'd find, yes, there's search box, and there's add text and add images and slideshows and polls and blog lists and link lists and so forth and so on. In fact, together in class, we're going to use the one called text to actually add in a gadget that's going to allow us to link to some of our labeled posts. But here's one that I want you to be aware of. The HTML and JavaScript gadget actually allow you to take HTML or Java that you're getting from somebody else's website and paste it directly in here so that you can access the content they're giving you. An example of that would be that clustermap gadget that I had showed you before. Anyways, if you're in here, notice you can re-edit a gadget once you've got it there, and you can grab gadgets and actually reorder them as well. I'd take some time to think about which are your gadgets that are most important to you. What order would you put them in? Because you probably want some of the gadgets that are most imperative or most priority to show up on top, and those that are just interesting for other people to show up on bottom. It's going to be up to you to take a look back at your functional sketches or your mock-ups to determine what were some of the gadgets that you felt were important. Who knows, you might actually have a design specification or a criteria that says you need a translate gadget. If so, here's where you go through the process of adding it. Let me just show you real quick how to add one of those awesome cluster maps from before. If you go to our blog, you'll see that I have a cluster map on our blog. By actually clicking on the blog itself, it'll actually open up the cluster maps website, where you can go through the process of getting your own cluster map. By clicking there, it'll take you to a page where you'll actually have to go through the process of typing in your current URL for your blog and your email. This is so that you can administer your gadget. You can change a couple of features about it. Once you go through the process of doing that, I'm going to go ahead and type in just something real quick, LJADTMYP 6, even though there's no such thing, .blogspot.com. And then for my email, I'm going to go ahead and put in my email address. I'm going to choose Make My Map, and it's actually going to go through the process of saying, congratulations, here is your HTML code. So I'm going to choose the recommended, which is good for most users, and just highlight all the coded HTML text in there. Now, I can't expect you to be able to read and understand all that. You don't have to, as long as you know how to highlight it all, copy and paste it. So I'm hitting Control-C on a PC or Command-C on a Mac, and then I'm going to go back to my blog and go through the process of adding a gadget. Now, because this is HTML code I have, I'm going to have to scroll down, find the option for HTML, click on it to add it in. And all that HTML, it goes right here. So I'm going Command-V or Control-V, depending on what type of your computer on, and I'm going to title it Who's Visiting? And I'm going to hit Save. And when I do that, it's actually going to go, sorry about that, it's actually going to go and stick it right in here for me. Now, it's going to stick it up at the top. I'll reorder it, and there it is. And when I go through the process of hitting Save Arrangement and viewing my blog, well, there will be my cluster map. And yours probably won't have any visitors for right now. Mine has 429, thanks to all of you, and a couple of other people in some other countries. But you'll have that gadget there. So, again, it's going to be up to you to determine what are the gadgets you feel are going to best help your web page or blog stand out. Now, in class together, we'll go through the process of creating a gadget that is going to be linking to some of your labeled posts. So we'll actually create a post that's labeled with design, tech, math, history, English, and then we'll create a gadget that will link to each of those posts as such. So good luck adding, editing, and dealing with your gadgets. And just remember, be very careful. We don't want gadgets that are going to give information about us away. We don't want gadgets that are going to give over control to some other person or company to display information we don't want to be associated with. And we don't want to put up gadgets that are going to be too distracting. I mean, I love Pac-Man as much as the next person, but are people really going to read my content? Are they going to sit there and try and beat their high score? So, good luck with your gadgets. Aloha.